Hey everybody, welcome back to Nature's Calls. As always, I'm your host, Nature Erdman, and today is finally the Tre Harris episode. So I've been wanting to do this for a while, but there was other episodes that felt a little bit more time sensitive that I really wanted to make. And so he's got kind of pushed to the back burner, which sorry if it made you feel any kind of way, Trey. I still love you. You're still one of my favorite receivers in this class. And I'm here to explain to everybody why I love him so much. Um, Somehow we've shifted from everybody being Tre Harris was every Chargers fan's favorite wide receiver in the class. Go us. We were all right because he's going to be amazing. To Tre Harris is slow, or Tre Harris don't look that good, or Tre Harris has a limited route tree. Um, and it feels like no one's in between. So I don't understand what's really going on with that. But here today, I'm going to give my opinion on Tre Harris, which is that I think he's an absolute legitimate high end wide receiver in the NFL. I think if we did not have Ladd on our team, he could very easily be a wide receiver one. I think he could be a high end wide receiver two. I think they could both have a tremendous amount of production depending on how they want to match up against us in the scheme, because Ladd's going to kill you in zone, playing from the inside, especially. Um, Harris is going to kill you in man coverage. I think it's a pick your poison type of situation. I think they're going to play off each other incredibly well. Um, I also think that, I mean, let's be honest. Why are we limiting Trey? Like it's we went from Ladd as a high end wide receiver two to Ladd as a wide receiver one, which that argument never made a whole bunch of sense to me. Size wise, physicality wise, if you're playing it by position, I mean Ladd's size is a wide receiver two, but clearly his production and capability is that of a wide receiver one. And honestly, his size isn't as small as it's made out to be. Like he's the same size as Antonio Brown. Like you can be a wide receiver one in the NFL. It's all about creating separation, which Ladd does at an elite level. But today's about Trey, and so like let's be honest, the Bengals drafted T Higgins, and then they went and drafted Jamar Chase. Granted, Jamar Chase was drafted higher, but T Higgins was very much considered a wide receiver one before that draft selection, and then he just became the best wide receiver two in the NFL probably. Um, so yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on your guys' situation, how you want to take it as the point of view. I look at it as it complements Ladd incredibly well. And he plays on the boundary primarily, whether that's at the X or Z does not matter. And we're about to touch on that because I think the whole X wide receiver thing went from being a logical argument and something I've had the argument for a lot of times when people were like, we need a wide receiver one. No, we need a boundary receiver, an X receiver, boundary receiver. It could be a Z. I don't care how you play it. I don't care if Clinton plays the X and Trey plays the Z. It doesn't matter to me because what we need is someone who can play on the boundary. And honestly, everybody needs to be able to move around because Ladd is not exclusively to the inside. Ladd played incredibly well on the outside. We're going to play two wide receiver sets whether it's this year or next year or 2 years down the road or however things shake out, we should want us to be able to have Ladd and Trey on the outside. Like the pigeonholing needs to stop. And then on top of that, this whole X wide receiver argument, I think that people just have gotten to a point where it needs to be really big contested catch guy or runs a 4-2 flat and there's no in between. There's nothing in between for that. Like you have to be Xavier Worthy or John Ross or Deshaun Jackson, or you have to be Vincent Jackson or Mike Evans or Mike Williams. Like that's the perception. And so I have this weird thing that I keep seeing about like, oh well he's not Mike Williams. He can't do the Mike Williams job. Do you know how many wide receivers have done the Mike Williams job in the NFL to where you just okay, you go run and I'm gonna huck it and you're gonna come down with it. Whether it's thrown to the defender, whoever, whether you guys are in hands at the same spot at the same time doesn't matter because I know you're gonna come down with the ball. There's very few players in the NFL who have ever done that. Like Mike Williams is probably the second best contested catch football player of all time behind Randy Moss. Like I if you watch that's it's the way that it is. That's what Mike Williams does well. Mike Williams never developed the rest of his route tree, the rest of his game as much as we all could have liked. That's okay. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. The question is can the offensive coordinator and the quarterback scheme and play to those strengths and avoid and cover up those weaknesses? That's what matters. Now, obviously, you don't want to compile an offense of Chris Godwin and Lad McConkey and Julian Edelman and Jarvis Landry. Like, that doesn't work. Looking at you, Buccaneers. I'm kidding. That doesn't work. Like, you need to have positional versatility to like or position. Sorry, you need to play to the proper positions to some extent. Like you need a little bit of size, you need a little bit of play style. You need somebody who can beat man coverage on the outside, especially if they're going to get single coverage on the outside position. Like that matters, but it's just gotten out of control, and I think that's where we all need to slow down. Like if you really think Quentin's just going to line, like it's not line up in the Z spot every single time. Like everyone's going to move. You're going to have to move. You're asked to do everything in the NFL. So I think that has gotten a little bit out of control with some of the tape that people have seen. And then the other thing with him being a slow wide receiver, which is hilarious to me, is for those who don't know, he had a sports hernia at the combine that he was recovering from. He had surgery for a hernia that he was recovering from when he ran at the combine. Now, as Jim Harbaugh said, and I would agree with, I appreciate the wherewithal to go out there and compete anyway. To go out there and try to go ahead and put something up so you can at least be there. There's so many players these days that are perfectly healthy, don't want to hurt their draft stock, don't know how they're going to run. So instead, they just choose to do the team meetings and everything else. Like, I get it. If you're going to be the number one, number two, number three overall pick, like, I get it. I kind of get it. But I think it's gotten carried away where nobody wants to do anything anymore. And you shouldn't just come to the combine, just have your personal interviews. But anyway, that's not where I'm trying to get to. So he ran a 4.54. Well documented. He was hurt. That's well documented at this point. So it's pretty safe to say that he would run at least a 4.52 had he been fully healthy. Now, game tape wise, I watch his film. I've watched him before. That's why I was such a fan. I think he's more of a 4.49 guy. That would be my ballpark for him. Apparently, that's slow. So I'd want to talk about receivers who have been moderately successful, you could say, in the NFL with approximately the same speed. So let's start up near the top, anybody who's above Tre Harris or right at that 4.53, 4.54 number. So let's just look at some guys. So like Cortland Sutton, boundary receiver, good size to him, ran a 4.54. Never really watched Cortland Sutton and said, oh man, if he was a little faster. Cooper Kupp, 4.62. Turns out all you need to know is how to separate. Because he did it and won a triple crown. Um, Mike Evans, 4.53. Devontae Adams, 4.56. Keenan Allen, 4.58. Mike Williams, 4.53. Antonio Brown, 4.56. Michael Thomas, who somehow people have forgotten that he was setting every single record for possessions. Can I hate on him, call him slant boy, whatever. The guy who created instant separation and got open immediately, and it worked incredibly well for that offense. So Mike Evans, Michael Thomas. Sorry, too many Mikes. 4.57. Even a guy like Jawan Jennings, who, again, I watch him play. I never look at him and say, man, if he was just fast, that would make him a good receiver. We're at a 4.72. Now let's look at guys who I think are a little bit closer to his actual speed. So let's look at that 4.5 to 4.52 to 4.48, 4.49 range. So let's look at a couple guys who I think have been decently successful in the NFL in that range. Jordan Addison, I know a lot of people like him, 4.49. Big fan of him myself. Rashee Rice, 4.51. Amon Ra, 4.51. C.D. Lamb, 4.50. Ayuk 4.50, Michael Pittman 4.52, and keep in mind almost everyone I'm listing here plays primarily on the boundary. Michael Pittman 4.52, Debo 4.48, AJ Brown 4.49, who's a popular comp for him. I'll get to that in a second. Alshon Jeffrey 4.48, Demarius Thomas 4.52, Des Bryant 4.52, AJ Green 4.48, and this one was funny to me. Tank Dell, he's not X receiver, but like when you talk about, oh, he's their speed guy. Nathaniel Tank Dell ran a 4.49. So can we relax? Relax, please, with the speed issues. Like, yes, he's not your burner. That's not his goal. That's not what he's on the field to do. But he is not slow. I'll go to a field right now, and I'm a pretty fast dude for my size and age. I think I'm in pretty solid shape. Now, I'm not out here doing sprints, but probably run a solid like 4.8 right now, 4.9, maybe. You know who wouldn't? Tre Harris. Rip right past me because he's fast. Like he's very fast. 4.49 to 5.454 is very fast. And really, it doesn't matter at the NFL level. What matters is that you can separate. That's all that matters. And who beats man coverage better than Tre Harris? Literally no one. At least from a college football perspective. He played in the SEC. He was not playing chumps. He's putting up what 100 and some odd yards a game, 130 something yards a game. Broke 1,000 yards in 8 games. Like it's insane. Like this whole idea of Tre Harris is not a good receiver, and without any substantial argument outside of maybe the 4.54 is just it's getting hilarious to me. Tre Harris is a stud. Like cannot believe that he fell to 55. I cannot believe it. Second round wide receivers, draft one every year. Because Jesus Christ, what are we doing, Joe Ortiz? Two of them back to back that are just absolute animals. So I want to talk about like stylistically what I see from Tre Harris because I hear a lot of comps. Again, obviously the funny one is the Mike Williams comp because he's a Charger, so it's like, yeah, we can go out there, be our new X, and go do the Mike Williams role. No, doesn't exist. Nobody has the Mike Williams role in the NFL. At least not to the level of capability that Mike Williams did. Like, yes, they play on the boundary and they run straight, but like, no, Mike Williams did that shit different. Um, so I hear a lot of AJ Brown. I think a lot of it's the Ole Miss, and I'll be honest, that was my first comp for him when I just looked at his measurables and everything else. This was back in September. No, when did I start really doing mock stuff? September was a dumb thing to say. Either way, it was back in like right at the end of the NFL season. Why did we get to like January? Um, and I was all over that as his comp. God, that was only a few months ago. Feels like forever ago. But and size wise and everything else. And then I watched him play. And he doesn't play with that physicality that AJ Brown plays with. He does. He's just not his style. He's not a pure jump ball guy. He's not incredibly aggressive at the catch point, mostly because he didn't have to be. What he does do is he creates separation, particularly on those shorter and intermediate routes. Lane Kiffin offense. Look at his success rate on the rest of his routes. It's not like it's his fault, and I think his route tree is going to develop. But I think he has the capability to get on the field right away because of that short and intermediate. Like you want him on a third down. He's he's a closer receiver to, in my mind, to Keenan Allen than he is Mike Williams. That's a really interesting way of putting it. Now, I don't think Keenan Allen is a good comp for him by any means, but I think that's just something that people need to consider. Um, and you just look at what he does stylistically, and I think he's a lot closer to these guys. So let's do a floor, middle, ceiling argument. So floor for him is probably to me that Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne range. I would be amazed if he's worse than that. Now, of course, he could bust, be a Laquan Treadwell, something like that. But that's kind of where I see his floor, which is excellent for a second round wide receiver. Do not get that twisted. They play meaningful, important NFL snaps. I think his ceiling is like an Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, and that comes purely from body style and route tree wise. What does he do well? Create quick separation, beat him after the catch. I don't care how fast you are. That was never an issue with Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas. Like that's the way that they play, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that from a boundary receiver. I don't care if you want to go get a big guy next draft or super fast guy, put KLS out there and play them at the X and you play him at the Z. It doesn't matter. It does not matter to me. What matters to me is how quickly you can get separation in the NFL against NFL level DBs. Now, you need to have a certain amount of size and speed to not get jammed and to be able to make those moves. But you think if you get two steps on somebody that they're catching you if you have a .04 difference in your 40 time? No. I don't think that's making too much of a difference. And then you have that likely middle floor. Cortland Sutton Has a little more length than Tre Harris. A little bit better at the contested catch point, but that's pretty accurate feeling comp wise. Brandon Ayuk is one that I like a lot. Um, I think he's kind of right in that middle range as well. I think that's like just stylistically, that's where you see Brandon Ayuk have success is across the middle of the field. I think, and on out routes and things like that on the perimeter. And I think you'll see a lot of that with Trey. But if there's one person that stylistically, body wise, measurable wise, that I really think people should be comparing him to, it's Michael Thomas. Where did he make his killing? In the short and intermediate area of the field. He patented the term slant boy for a reason. So I want to show you this. If you're radio listener, Spotify listener, I'll go ahead and read it all out to you. If you're watching on YouTube, you get the actual visual. So this is just some measurables. Here, let's blow it up. So we have Michael Thomas versus Tre Harris. So height 6'3 versus 6'2. Michael Thomas 6'3. Weight 212 to 205. Extra inch and extra 7 pounds. Not too massive of a difference there. Arm length 32 and an eighth versus 31 and 7 eighths. So a quarter of an inch difference in arm length. Hand size doesn't really matter too much, but there's a half an inch difference. Michael Thomas advantage. 40-yard dash 4.57 versus 4.54. Michael Thomas is slower. Obviously, if that's 4.57, 4.49, you're really looking at an advantage there on Tre Harris. But again, I don't care about straight line speed that much. 10-yard split, Michael Thomas 1.53, Tre Harris 1.56. Very reasonable for that 10-yard split to be closer to a 1.54 for Tre Harris were he not to be injured. Vertical jump, 38.5, 3.5 inches higher than Michael Thomas. So he got a little bit more explosiveness in his game. Typically broad jump, almost identical, 10.5, 10.6. Production score overall at college was 76 for Trey, only a 74 for Michael Thomas at Ohio State. Athleticism score, Michael Thomas did score a little bit better, 74-72. Very reasonable again to assume that Tre Harris could have scored those 2 points higher on his 40-time metrics were he to be healthy. Total score, 80 for Michael Thomas, 79 for Tre Harris. Prospect grade, 6.3. Both gentlemen, same score. Draft selection, Michael Thomas 48 to the Saints, Tre Harris 55 to the Chargers. So incredibly similar, only 7 spots different, almost identical draft capital. It's incredibly in line with one another. Incredibly so. And stylistically, again, that's really where this comp comes from for me. Makes a tremendous amount of sense because of what Tre Harris does incredibly well and where Michael Thomas made his entire killing. Now, I think Tre's going to have a little bit more depth to him. He has upside to do it, but again, we drafted Mike Williams thinking that he could be an absolute take over the entire field type of player, a Julio Jones type of player. Now, he didn't develop that into his game. Tre Harris might not develop all of that route tree, the go ball and stuff into his game as much, and we'll have to work around that, and that's okay. That's okay. But Tre Harris has a path to success, and I harped on this all last year because I was such a Malik Neighbors fanboy. Still am. Still love him. Stud as a player. Um, and so that was my whole thing. Is like, what translate well to the NFL level? What was my biggest issue that Malik Neighbors is my favorite wide receiver, Marvin Harrison, ridiculous prospect, gonna have more growing pains. Look, I seem to be hitting that one pretty well. Rome Odunze I don't like as much because what he did incredibly well was it's all between his head, it's all between the ears. Smart player, very smart player. The way he pulls his hands late is incredible. But he doesn't create separation. What Malik Neighbors does is create instant separation. That's what translates to the NFL the quickest. Sure enough, I think that added up on that one. I think that made a little bit of sense. So, Harris has a clear path to immediate success in the NFL. What happened for Ladd McConkey? Ladd McConkey is excellent at creating separation. There's a lot of things Ladd McConkey does well, but it led to immediate NFL level success. And I think this is going to lead to immediate NFL level success. So Wanted to keep this video short. We're knocking on 20 minutes, so I'll go ahead and sign off for you guys. If you disagree with me on this one, you can leave your comments and feedback below, but I don't care because Tre Harris is that guy. If you haven't seen it, go watch film. If you don't want to go watch film, please just wait and see because I promise you he's going to be one of your favorite players in no time. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. These were Nature's Calls, and go Bolts. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please give me a follow on Twitter or X at Erdman Chargers. Or if you're not already there, go ahead and hop over to my YouTube channel, like or subscribe at Nature's Calls Pod. Thanks for listening.